What do you swear you saw but don't have any proof of?
I saw a fox chasing a turkey on a hot summer day. They both tired out and stopped running at the same time and laid down to rest. Then they got up to continue the chase after about a minute. Some absolute cartoon nonsense that I swear happened, but I wouldn't believe me either.
On the same vein, I once saw 3 fat as fuck wild turkeys cluck across our backyard in marching order, one right after the other. The kicker? It happened on Thanksgiving Day.
About 5 to 6 years ago, I had a job delivering propane. One day I was in a very rural area, dragging the hose down the remaining 75 or so feet of the driveway that was too narrow to back down. I kept hearing turkey sounds. As I got closer to the back of the house and maybe about 25 or so feet behind the house, there was an old stone wall that was in the woods. It's New England, so the walls are everywhere. Anyway, I had a view from the side of a single file line of turkeys, probably about 30 or more, walking through a path and hopping up onto and over the wall. It was wet snowing, and there was maybe a quarter of an inch, if that, on the ground. Every single turkey that hopped down from the wall slipped and fell. Some landed on their asses, some fell forward on their faces, some on their sides, some onto each other. Then they'd get up and keep walking. It was that last time I ever left my phone in the truck while filling a tank.
Sitting at the campsite and a beaver walks out of the lake, like on its hind legs, and proceeds to walk like this through the campsite and into the woods like it's on its way to Pooh's house or whatever, just strolling.
I had a beaver do that while I was night fishing, walked out of the water on its hind legs, less than 6 feet from me, dropped a load of mud on the sandbar, turned around and walked back into the water, paid no attention to me at all.
He's got a long day at the beaver mines ahead of him. He can't stop for every bloke gawking at him make a living.
Was living in Japan in a city called Miyazaki. Was watching TV around the Christmas season. Station was MRT. Was about 10 p.m. at night. There was a station ID break and it ended with a full-screen large type message in English. Merry Christmas, fuck you. This was 1993.
Hello there. I am living in Japan as well. There is a popular song called Merry Christmas Fuck You by Japanese artist Jet Boys. Maybe they were just copy-pasting that song title, or were playing that song during that TV show.
As far as I can tell, that song came out in 1995. Maybe the Jet Boys saw the same broadcast, thought it was funny, and wrote a song about it.
A lion at my parents' house when I was a kid. My older brother saw it too. Coincidentally, a lion went missing from a zoo in Ohio around that time and was never found. My brother and I swore we saw it, but obviously had no proof. That winter, my parents found giant paw prints outside that definitely were not a dog, cat, coyote, etc. Years later, when I was a freshman in high school, my friend's mom was driving me home and swore she saw a lion run across the road my parents live on. She never even knew the story about me swearing there was a lion out there. She was so convinced that she immediately called the police. That was all the proof I needed to know I was never crazy and know what I saw as a kid. Edit. It was 2004-2006 or so when my brother and I saw it, so prior to the 2011 Zanesville, Ohio incident. The spotting by my mom's friend was around 2012.
This fucking thread has convinced me that nearest exotic wildlife safari is not in Africa, but in goddamn Ohio.
My driving instructor had me pull over to see if some guy had his kangaroos out in Ohio. You could, in fact, see them from the road.
I know goddamn well I saw a zebra grazing in a pasture while visiting colleges in northern central Ohio. This was a good 15 years ago.
There was for sure a zebra near Granville, Ohio, eastern central. Haven't seen it for a while, though.
Edit. Well, I guess to appease some of you, yes, it was Denison. No, I didn't get in. I can't call my parents to gloat. Dad passed away the day before Father's Day, and she who birthed me is dead to me. But I'm living a better life mostly, and I slept like a baby last night. Motherfucker! I knew it! That's exactly where it was. And my parents wouldn't turn around.
A comet or something explode into a giant green fireball when I was a kid. Edit. In no way did I think a throwaway comment before class would get this much attention. Seems like a lot of yous have seen bolides or aliens.
Nice. I've seen one do that in a meteor shower once.
Once, while my father was driving at night, we saw a small, nondescript shooting star just north of Sydney, Australia. The next morning, a neighbor told us she'd seen it straight out the kitchen windows that night over the sink while doing the dishes. Apparently, a tiny fraction of the meteorite landed and was recovered. This was in Australia.
Kathy Bates. I was working the closing shift at a Publix in Atlanta as a bagger, and I swear I saw her start to leave. I went up and went, "Excuse me, did you know you look like—" The woman interrupted and went, "Kathy Bates, yes, I know." Then she smiled and walked out of the store.
My ex-girlfriend's mom looked a lot like Jamie Lee Curtis. So this woman at the gym goes up to her and says, "Hey, has anyone told you that you look like Jamie Lee Curtis?" And she was like, "Yeah, I get that all the time." Then the lady said, "Well, has anyone ever told you that you look like me?" It was actually Jamie Lee Curtis. No, this is not a made-up story.
This reminds me of how Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg have an agreement that when fans mistake them for each other, to just roll with it.
A corpse in a ditch on the side of the road. I was a kid, told my parents as we drove by, and they got mad at me for having such a morbid imagination.
Ooh, that's sad. An unsolved murder in the area I grew up in was discovered when some kids on a school bus saw her body in the ditch as they drove by. Thank goodness the bus driver believed them. I'm sorry your parents didn't believe you. That's some trauma.
I hate it when parents don't listen to their kids. Maybe it's because they don't want to believe that their kids saw something like that.
Nirvana in concert in a freaking gym in Bellingham, Washington in 1992.
My college friend swears during a night of bar hopping, we saw Nirvana in a dive skater bar in July 1989 in Carbondale, Illinois. It's an urban legend now, but my friend swears we were there, and only a dozen or so people were there. I so wish I could remember that.
I swear I saw a man walk backwards up a hill and disappear. He went out of my line of sight as he walked behind a tree and never came out the other side. I checked the tree and everything. It scared the crap out of me.
This one oddly scared me those most. Very creepy.
I've seen people just disappear in the woods too. I was on a hike by myself when the entire forest just went completely silent all at once, and the sounds of all the birds and anything else was just suddenly replaced by the sound of thousands of buzzing flies. That seemed like a bad sign at the time, so I just turned around and started walking back towards the start of the trail. I saw a guy wearing a blue t-shirt, gray dark green cargo shorts, and a black watch walking towards me. White guy, medium to large build. Never caught his face. It was blocked by the trees. I'm already freaked out by the change in noise, so I stop where I'm at and wait for him to pass. He walks behind a tree, doesn't pass the tree, never reaches me. I walk where he was walking, nobody there. Still hear the sound of the flies buzzing around, but no flies in sight. Didn't see him in any direction. Didn't see any footprints. Never saw him as I was walking back. No clue where he went.
Driving on a semi-rural road south of Salem, Oregon, about 15 years ago, I swear I saw some cryptid-looking bipedal wolf thing. My girlfriend at the time was with me, and we both saw it. Didn't really talk about it. I just kinda accepted we saw something we couldn't explain.
I worked in Medford back in 2008-2010. I was doing a little weekend trip with a girlfriend at the time. We were on the 20 between Corvallis and Newport. We both saw a bipedal wolf thing also. He must have been a good 6 feet tall. We saw him running across the highway at dusk. When we passed the spot he crossed, we looked up into the trees and saw something glaring from the trees. We drove our asses off the rest of the evening, LOL.
Yeah, this was in the middle of the night, and it was crouched over something next to the road. Looked up, and our headlights made its eyes shine red at us. It stood up and went into the brush, and I couldn't see it in the rear view because it was so dark on that road. Glad I'm not the only one to see something like this in the area.
I was doing laundry, and after opening the door to take the clothes from the washer, a live grasshopper flew out and hit me in the chest. It scared the shit out of me because it was so unexpected. A grasshopper somehow got into my laundry, survived the entire wash cycle, and had enough life in him to jump out and hit me. I threw him back outside. I joke and say he's immortal. He's probably still out there somewhere.
Thundersnow. In college, we had team workouts at 5:30 a.m. during the winter. When we emerged from our dorms, we were greeted by an absolutely insane lightning display combined with driving snow. The walk across campus was absolutely insane, like something from the day after tomorrow. When we finished the workout around 7, it had warmed up and had changed to rain, and everything had melted. There were 25 guys on the roster, and we all know what we saw, but none of our friends believed us.
Sort of a stretch in the question, but when I was a little girl, I had a dream where I lived an entire life. The dream felt like a lifetime. I grew up, got married, had children, grew old with my husband, and I died. I still remember the peace of dying and thinking to myself that I was so happy and lucky for the blessed life I lived. As me and my husband get older, he starts to look and feel more like the man I grew old next to in my dream. I woke up right after I died, crying. I couldn't have been more than 9 or 10.